1 week ago, Eritrea had never celebrated a Tour de France stage win. Today, they celebrate a second, both thanks to Biniam Girmay, this race's green jersey to boot. What a stage that was, and a very different win from his first, wasn't it, Robbie?
What a messy slog it was up to the line. I mean, it could have come from anywhere. It was a sprint in slow motion due to the gradient and the headwind breeze. But Biniam Girmay, the entire time with his Intermarché team, they sort of held themselves back from being on the front, but they just got organised, all stuck together. And when they were really disciplined in how long they waited, because it's really tempting to go early when you get space. And then they went, but it was a good lead out nonetheless from the Cofidis team for Brian Coquard. But being right on the front, leading out this sprint uphill into a headwind is not really where you want to be. You also don't want to be too far back and risk getting boxed in, because look at Arnaud Delis in the middle. He was the favourite to win the stage, but he just kept getting riders come around him, and had to weave his way out. When the sprint opened up, he had a lot of work to do. Girmay off the wheel of Coquard, and then Jasper Philipsen thought he must about to be finally getting one, and then he just didn't, and it was Binny again.
He wasn't the only one. He thought he must be finally about to get one, Adam. I was convinced Jasper Philipsen had the win there. That was such a slog is the right word there, Robbie. He's going to be gutted about that, isn't he?
Properly gutted, yeah. But he left himself with so much work to do. Out of all the sprinters in that field then, he was at least 20th with about 800 metres to go.
He was off the road with 2.5k to go.
He was so far back, and I don't know what happened. Like, Van der Poel was there with him, but behind him. Then he just sat up with 800 metres to go. He was just so badly positioned, and eventually got himself up to it. So he had the legs. But even when he started the sprint, if you look at him and Girmay's cadence, how quick they were pedalling, he was in an enormous gear. And I know this year he has been really shoving a big gear around in the sprints. A lot of power. You can see his arms throwing the bike everywhere. But he just looks so overgeared compared to Biniam then. And it was only the last 10 metres where he started to just lose that distance to him. But on those climbs like that, if you knock down a gear, you lose your cadence a little bit, lose your rhythm. He did exactly the right thing here. Just before it clicked up, just before it kicked up with about 150 to go, Philipsen took that speed, started the acceleration first, but it's just at that point there, 15, 20 metres to go, he just ran out of energy, basically. But a perfectly executed sprint by him, but just didn't have the legs.
Yeah, I'd say he got bogged. We talked about this in commentary. With that rising finish, it wasn't a consistent gradient where you just choose a gear and stick with it. It was up, it dipped away, it kicked up again and got steeper to the finish. If you've chosen a big gear, it is so hard to change to an easier gear in full sprint. Changing up, no problem, but changing down is much more difficult, and you're in great danger of just jumping your gears. But if you get stuck in too big a one, you do get bogged, and it looked like that's what happened to Philipsen.
On his first stage win, Danny, in stage 3, we were talking about history, the first black African to ever win a stage at the Tour de France, and it's lovely that Anders managed to have a quick word with Ryan Gibbons, the South African national champion. For the whole of the continent, these wins matter, and this one almost arguably more so even than stage win number 1, because it's making it look like this is the new norm now. These guys can win Biniam, at least, certainly.
Of course, and he is going to be a hero, isn't he? And that role model for these youngsters to look up to. And we allude to it multiple times as to, if you can't see it, then you can't believe it. And now they can. And yeah, what can we say? It's been remarkable to see 2 stage wins from him. He's just going to be a trailblazer.
I think when you really think back to where he was, remember the Giro? He crashed, got back on his bike, crashed again, and that's when he got off. The disappointment then, that was his big target of the year. Crashed out of that. I'm sure now if you said to him, now, would you, do you want to try and
prepare for next year's tour? Stack it as much as possible.
Exactly, but it's just crazy to think where he was and able to build probably to a better rider than he is now, what he was thinking he was at 100% of the Giro. He's just had a very, very low point, and how he's come back from it is phenomenal. Like 2 stage wins within, what, 4 days?
Yeah, 2 stage wins within 5 stages, and the green jersey, Robbie. These are all momentous achievements.
Dominating the green jersey. 68-point lead before this sprint over Jasper Philipsen. He's just extended that by another 20. And both stage wins have been brilliant in their own right, but I'll go as far to say that this one, for me, is even more impressive than the first one. The first one was getting the gap out of the slipstream. Not that it was a lucky strike or anything like that, but this one was pure power. Everyone, except for Arnaud Delis, with the chance to just go with everything they had. It was a real head-to-head with Jasper Philipsen, and Binny came out on top.